Hi everyone, Mature Simmer here. So welcome back to Misty Hills. Getting close to empty, it's starting to affect the health of the pigs. So first thing I'm going to do here is get the food topped off. So 849 is one of them. 16.99 is the other. So this is going to be the grain. So this will be my wheat. And then we'll get sorghum in for the next one. So I do apologize, and I'm hopeful that we don't have any further issues, that the last episode was so short. I had, probably something to make it at least reasonable in that I probably had 20-25 minutes of material as I was working on the field and planting, but all I ended up with was like a white screen with audio, which wouldn't have been terribly exciting. So I just ended up obviously scrapping that, and you ended up with a 7-minute video or whatever it was. So the recording software I use had been updated, kind of a major update. It looked very different. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. If it does, obviously this will repeat, and then I'm going to have a bigger challenge. But the issue is, even if I wanted to, again, I couldn't go back and redo things, given how the FSN servers function and so forth. It's all, real-time work, and what's done is done type of thing. So while I don't know that this is going to be an extremely long episode, it's hopefully going to be a complete episode as opposed to what happened with the other situation. So let me get this to 6,799. This will be the protein, I believe. So the difference here now is I think we finally got to the point where we have consumed all of the soybeans, and now we're moving over to the sunflower, unless I misunderstood or misremembered my crop types, in which case I'll try to dump that in and it'll go in the wrong place. But so soybeans are 0. So there's sunflowers. So there we go. So we'll get that over to the silo, and then obviously we'll need to top off the potatoes, which were at $2.91. I think we need those at like $17.01. So I'll get that figured out. So we've got the crampy trailer over there. It's kind of where I've been leaving things. I'll probably go ahead and just drop this trailer. Well, no, I won't drop it here, because then I won't be able to fill the potatoes. Wow. Barely touching the trigger there, so let's see. There we go, protein. That's the most important thing. So, I understood correctly. So, yay for me. So, the challenge now is obviously getting the... alright, so I'm going to go ahead, sorry. I'm going to leave the trailer here. Good a place as any. Certainly a little easier to get to. We'll come and get the potatoes you know, I'm going to have to drive along the edge of the field there again and try to avoid any kind of problems. So let's see, if it was 1701, 300 would be 1401, but we got 10 more, so 1411 is going to be my amount that I need to set for my limiter. Getting too far ahead. I was getting ready to load limit while I was sitting out there, but that's not what I need. So I had that at 2,000 because last time what happened, and that's how we ended up with not being out of food entirely, with having some root crops. I put extra root crops in there because I used the soybeans, but I didn't have the 67.99. I had, I think, like 6,300 something. Let's see. Ooh. This is just so close here, and I obviously don't want to lose any crops. And the other day, I think I had, actually. Yeah, this is just going to get worse, because if you think about how the trailer's going to work, boy. Alright, let me get back here. We'll see if I may regret this even more. I'm going to try to scoot through here. So if I can do that, then maybe... Alright, looks like that works. So that'll give me a easier path when I've got to deal with this. So we'll come here and get the potatoes. But yeah, what I had happening was the soybeans were less, but I wanted to kind of get the food filled as much as I could, so I went ahead and added another 300 or so in root crops, and then I think that's kind of what we have left, is all the other food ran out, because at this point I'm not sure that the pigs are actually eating at all, which is I think why the health went down. If I had checked before I resynced the time, I might have just been okay, because I think, you know, the 80% kind of indicates a couple hours, and it was, I had to sync from 4 something up to 7 when I got on. I have not been on for a couple days. This is over Labor Day weekend, and just decided I was doing some other stuff and was like, you know, I don't have to be on any of the games, so I kind of took a computer-free diet at that point. Let's see. I'm going to do the same kind of thing here. But I'm not... Oh, that's not going to work, so... Alright, well... Good news is there's nothing here, so we'll circle around and we'll get ourselves... Because initially I'm like, well, I'll just leave the trailer somewhere else. But I honestly don't want to leave it somewhere else, so I'll take it where I want, but go here. There's just enough little trees and everything that it's a bit of a challenge to get around there, but I made it. It's the most important thing. Okay. So pigs are all set. So the other job is getting the second layer of fertilization onto the field. So we're at growth stage 4 of 7 this morning when I took a look. So, you know, definitely in decent shape. Certainly have time to get fertilization on there, but at this point I kind of don't want to have the possibility of forgetting again, because sometimes, you know, I'm in the flow of doing other things and then I'm like, well, now I forgot to get back on and do what I needed to do. So we'll get this going here. It should be close enough. Alright. We'll get ourselves back out to the far range view that is normal. I didn't empty the herbicide, so let me go do that. Obviously I need an empty vehicle. So the other thing I had done at one point is when I had delivered the slurry in the brake, which again you did see that. When I had done that, sometimes I'll realize, hey, on my supplies on my way home, I'll stop at customs and buy something. So I had bought a full tanker of liquid fertilizer, but my next one will have to be herbicide because I'm down to, I think, below 20,000 liters now. And typically it's a sprayer and a bit when I'm doing these fields, which I'm sure will also happen with the liquid fert here. So, you know, we should be in good shape for the liquid fertilizer, 50,000-60,000 at least. So I'm not going to have any danger of running out here, but I did want to make sure I shared that I had done that work as well, because that was something that I was doing off camera anyway, as I was just finishing up delivering the slurry and so forth. But, you know, definitely kind of getting back into the rhythms of Misty Hills, moving things along as appropriate. Definitely down here on the southern half, I've kind of settled into, probably on both ends, going here because the way the field is tapered, it just goes away from the location here in both spots. Thinking because I think I'll hit the end. Maybe not, I don't know. So maybe I shouldn't worry about it, but as I'm trying to line up, I'm like, well, I'm going to hit that tip, because I think that's the problem I had at one point, is I was doing that and then needed to come back here and hit the tip, so I'm like, I'll just hit the tip now and try to be complete. The question is, am I really going to be, or was I just hopeful and not gonna be where I need to be? I'm a little short there. A few plants aren't gonna get the full second layer. No, I'm too far. This is always the challenge until we lock in some sort of GPS motion. So I'm gonna go ahead and start doing that. I am drifting again, goodness. Yeah, this is, well, see what kind of track we end up with. It should be close enough to what I needed that it'll be fine, but I guess we'll see. But yeah, what I was saying is the fields, you can see it, you know, it's tapering back kind of to the south here, and similarly on this end that we're headed toward, if I'm on the north end of the field, it does the same thing where it tapers up to the north from the edge. So kind of starting here gives me the farthest point, and then I can head on down. So it's still telling me I'm lined up on 0, as if I haven't moved at all. So, you know, I'm going to want to be at probably, I think, -1 is probably how it's going to line up. But as always, yeah, just verifying it's working. It is. It's one of those things I don't want to assume. We all know what the phrase is about assuming and what it does, and you know, another common cliche on, you know, Americans at least is, you know, no news is good news. But, you know, I always subscribe more to no news is no news. I prefer to have data as opposed to speculating on what's going on. So, yes, so we're at -1. So I'll swing out pretty wide here, get myself on the track now, let it line up wherever it's going to line up. And that probably will mean that we're going to have a sliver left on the end, because that's just the nature of it, because probably once I locked in, we really needed like a +1 at the top end of the field or something to really do it. But we'll see how that all comes through, and I'll work with that. But yeah, the wheat should be all set. I think that's what I planted. Clearly, my memory's not working well with everything. Let's see how we're tracking. So I'm trying, oh, that's interesting. So I guess when JP limed the field, there was a little bit of pieces for whatever reason that he didn't quite get, but that's alright. Obviously I'll just wait until the whole field needs it again. By the time I would touch all those areas up, I would probably use thousands and thousands of liters of lime just to get, you know, probably 1/10 of an acre or something in total land covered. So, and part of what gets confusing when you're looking at Farming Simulator sometimes is, you know, it won't necessarily count that against you. I mean, maybe it is as accurate as the map shows, because once again, I think I've had this discussion with other things when I'm looking at the map, is obviously if it's enough to show on the map, like obviously the computer or the software is aware of it. So therefore, I'm sure it probably does operate that way, but if I'm delusional and convince myself it doesn't, then you know, I can make myself feel better, right? Alright, so there you go. You can see that sliver, so we will take care of that right away. So I think, I'm trying to remember, I should be able to cycle around appropriately. Yeah, I'm wondering if on 13 he harvested in the meantime. He probably did. So we'll see as we get closer, and it's not just the shading, but that we've got the actual crops there, because obviously if they did, I can feel a little better about not worrying too much about overlap. But it is fertilizer, so worst case, we're just giving them some extra. But at this point, I've got to go basically to where that field comes down. So we'll go ahead and, whoops, I don't need to turn it on yet, but that'll get us what we need. But I have to go, well, I can't, I keep thinking I can point on this, but the ways in single player that you can suddenly get an arrow to appear don't work. Or if they do, I haven't figured out how to get them to work in FSN. Alright, so I should be solid here. I am. So that little point there is kind of going to be my measure, and then I should be good. So right there. Just verify. Like I said, we did miss pieces here and there, but we'll take that little bit of a hit up there. That's okay. Because it, once again, becomes one of those things that it's not necessarily worth it to get every last inch. And once again, I may be incorrect, but I'm pretty sure, because I've seen it, you know, I've always lived somewhere that, whoops, that farm fields were something I did pass And it's no different where I'm at now. And let's see. There we go. Alright, I wasn't sure if I could line up, because I don't think I need to do the edges here. I think it'll work just fine, because it has a quicker turning radius than the planter, so I'm not in danger of going into the river too far. But in real life, I've seen farmers, either not plant the corners, they just round them off. So those decisions certainly happen, where they're just like, that little piece just isn't worth it. And I've certainly seen, patches of field that look like, maybe they were too wet, something was happening, but, the plants are a lot more stunted than they are surrounding it. So whether it was that the fertilizer got missed, or the herbicide didn't work, or there's too much moisture, and so the plant basically got drowned a bit, but not enough to not grow. But sometimes they don't grow at all. That's certainly the point I'm at. I mean, I'm obviously running year after year after year like a normal farm here, and in the grand scheme of things, losing a few hundred liters or even a few thousand liters here and there once in a while is not going to really change the fortunes too significantly when, we're talking about tens and hundreds of millions of liters of crop over time as we go forward. Because it's not as if I'm regularly, intentionally just super sloppy and missing things. But it happens in those spaces, and it's okay. So, as I was driving around, I think I mentioned that JP, who was borrowing the field, said, why do you have those 2 spots in your field here? Like, why didn't I plow them over? Because when he purchased 12, where Swede used to be, he went ahead and promptly plowed over that center circle that Swede had left and put his beehive on. So it certainly came to mind as I was planting, but I think, again, the size of the field, it's okay to not have some product used and so forth, and it's just part of how the farm is, so I'm still leaning toward just leave it. I did not check this morning to see what the situation is on auctions and so forth, so there may be other fields up. Last I had checked, nobody had been bidding on 24. I apologize for that weird enunciation of 24. I was kind of starting to think and say different things, and you know what that does to your vocals then. But yes, I believe it's 24. That was the one that was up at the far end in the direction we're facing now. So I think that one got passed over without anyone taking it, but I don't know if anything new has come up. For a day or two, there were no auctions, which is not abnormal. That certainly happens. It can go on for weeks at a time sometimes. But again, I think I was on here in March when I planted, and basically April, May, I didn't get onto the server at all. So in a couple days, certainly things could have happened. So, but yeah, I got so the money from JP. It was $50,000 that I got for him using the field, so that has put me back over the $1 million mark. Because with buying the herbicide and so forth, I had been below again. The other thing I did realize the other day was the oats that I had done last year are still sitting in my silo, and I probably can do something with them as well. At this point, what I may do is just deal with selling off both crops at the same time and just kind of turn it into what it normally is. Like, hey, it's just, this is the job, and it's just a little bigger this time because I'm running another 300,000 liters or whatever it was that I got to customs as well, or to the sell point if I choose to do that. I've never done an in-game sale here in Shellbrook, but once again, I think that may become a little bit more common. I'll just bring it up again because I don't know that everybody gets the opportunity to listen to every minute of every video, and if you're at this point, you're not hearing this, but FSN had removed the option of being able to send crops to customs and then send them to our warehouse at Baku, and then sell them on the resource exchange and get that money back here to the farm. You can still do that, but that money then is, in my view, because I don't really do much in entrepreneurs or meta, they're synonymous. It's stuck over there, and so that's what happened the one year with the crop I sent. I had about 150,000 that I gained and was going to try to move it and could not. Oh, he's still not harvested, so at a minimum I need to be careful that I don't roll into the field. But at this point, yeah, I'll spray here normally, but then I'm going to need to, I'll probably do that now. I'm going to need to go down this way and do the end here because I don't want to drive through his crop. I should be okay because these are all narrow tires, but it's just not worth the possibility of damaging anything. So I think that's canola. I used to be pretty good visually, but somehow in FS22 that skill has not come back to me. In FS19 I could identify the crops and tell you, yep, this is what you've got, but not so much here. Alright, so that's good enough. Again, the boom is just skimming his crop tops. You could see them fluttering a little bit underneath. But because of that change and being able to sell, that resource exchange was oftentimes my more common piece. And the logic there, which I get, is, they felt it because it does tend to be more lucrative to do that. And I think outside of the direct economics of resource exchange and crops that you're moving, I guess other areas of meta, it's easy to generate a lot of money because I know they talk more in billions of dollars over there than millions of dollars. And so the feeling was it gave those who participated in that economy and entrepreneurs an unfair advantage in that they, in essence, were guaranteed to always have money for their farm if they could continue to transfer between the two websites and then ultimately move it in here. So that was removed to further separate the two spaces, and then the only overlap will be things like the Group Suez project or other things that there is something intentional set up to allow things to happen. So the other thing that I haven't talked about, that's been out for a while, but I just haven't brought it up because until I see it, I don't know if there will be any interest or if it's something I'm going to get into. There's some discussion about one kind of longer term events that are farming simulator focused. So as opposed to the group project that uses farming equipment and really kind of crosses the entire universe of offerings in what was originally the FSN community and now is kind of split as FSN and entrepreneurs. But to do something, I guess, similar, I don't know that there'll be projects or they'll just be longer term things. And there was, I think, some indication that it might be like server focused, that it's going to be things that we have to work together as FMs on the server to be able to achieve, or something like that. That would probably be more likely that I would get involved in something like that. But the one that I'm less sure about is they're talking about kind of special scenario or special environment servers. I forget what the language that was used was, but it basically becomes like they're set up differently than the standard FSN rules in some way to allow, for different gameplay, different type of experience. So there might be equipment allowed on them that isn't in FSN. You may be able to, I guess, they might even go so far as, hey, we're going to allow you to use automation over here. So just depending what there is, and then obviously weighing that as always with the time of, is this something that I want to add in? Because I don't see any scenario where I suddenly am like, oh, yep, this is how I'm going to now experience FSN. I'm going to sell everything off here. I'm going to leave this server and I'm going to go there. And that will become my thing. Unless it's just phenomenally better than what I'm thinking. To me, those would be more of a dabbling. It would almost literally be like an event on a mobile game or something. Like, yeah, for 3 weeks we have this going on. And so it might be an addition to what I'm doing, but that's the point, is then I'm here on this farm and I still have this same work. And I could certainly curtail things and so forth and just skip a year, do whatever, and I may do that just to experience the situation and see what I think of it. But the likelihood of suddenly adding on anything substantial there and continuing, I think is, or fully shifting over there, is, right now I would say it's zero. Obviously things can change and I can suddenly come to a different opinion, but right now, this is FSN, this is what we do, and what I'm waiting for here is precision farming, as we've been waiting. So I had some folks comment on some how-to videos I had on the channel about precision farming, and I did a little bit more research on environmental score and so forth, so I definitely think I understand it a little bit more, or at least refreshed myself to the point where I was at. But really about the spraying is just the spot spraying technology is what's needed to get at least a 10 point bump on your environmental score. But the reality of that in an FSN universe is the environmental score gives you extra money when you're selling crop in game. So kind of coming back around to where I was, looking to see where the field needs spraying. I think it's here. Hopefully I'm guessing correctly. Yep, looks like I am. Alright. Coming back around to what we were talking about with selling, where we sell crops, is if I do keep doing it to customs, so a direct sell is what's left then to get money back into the farm, unless they're going to mimic that in that sale, that wouldn't matter. So the environmental score is going to be, I think, interesting, but not relevant in what I typically do. It would only matter if I was choosing to sell directly on the server. Now, where it becomes relevant, I suppose, as I talk about this, I guess it kind of popped forward to be thorough. It could be enough that it's the tipping point. So if I know I'm going to get an extra 10%, and I don't know, I'm trying to remember when I've had the environmental score on other series or just other times I've played, I don't know that it's that high, because I'm thinking like the last time I think I sold, no, but the total would have been, so it would have been 18, I think it was like 18,000 in sales dollars, but then I think I got like 5,000 for the environmental score, so it could be like 30% or something. But if it becomes that, like that may be enough to tip it, where suddenly direct sell is less, and the benefit obviously there is I'm not waiting for someone to do the customs contract and then having to transfer the money in here, which means waiting for operations to actually put the money in. If I do it direct in game, it's just here, and it makes it a little simpler. But there's still that dynamic to think about. But obviously, before we can even worry about that, we have to pass the checkpoint of actually having precision farming on our servers, which we don't have. And my understanding is, when they're getting to that point, it's going to be asked of us in our mayor channel, where the mayors chat, and hey, let me know if you want precision farming on your server, and it's going to be kind of handled that way. So let me move this over here, but at this point, I think that gets you where you need to be. I've dealt with the pigs. I'm now finishing up my fertilizing, and that is what I am doing today. There may be a possibility I'll go in. There's a land auction, and I need to do something there, but I'm not going to video that, and add that to the episode. So for now, that gets us where we're at. I think I'm still too far. I just hate trying to see where I haven't sprayed, but I think it's there. It is just so difficult when there are already crops growing. Okay, well, either way, I did it right. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead, get this done. As you can see, I'm down approaching 1,200 liters left. Obviously, I've got a good amount of field to go here, so I'm going to need to refill, but I will get this done, and that's all I've got for now. So I'll see you next time.